Let's do an example. So the mean number of snow days in a year is 13 with a standard deviation of 4 days. What's the probability that there will be fewer than 14 snow days, more than 16 snow days, at least 16 snow days, exactly 13 snow days? Okay. So we know the mean is going to be 13. The standard deviation is going to be 4. And A is saying, what is the probability that it's going to be fewer than 14? So not equal, fewer than 14. Now that's a discrete probability though. So what we have to do is we have to turn that into a continuous probability. And that's going to be the same thing as the probability that x is less than. So just as a, let's quickly do it. 13, 14, 15. Less than 14 is this, but not this. So it's going to be 13.5. So x is less than 13.5. So what we're going to do then is we're going to turn this into a z-score. But we're going to use the 13.5. So the z-score is the x minus the mu over the sigma, which is going to be 13.5 minus 13 over 4, which is 0.5 over 4, which is 0.125. So it's 0.125, which we're going to round to 0.13 because this is math and not science. So in fives we round up. So what happens now, this changes. So this is going to be the probability that, no, this is going to be the probability that z is less than 0.13. And then we need our handy dandy tables. So 0.13 is going to be 5517. Which is going to be 55.17%. So the probability of having fewer than 14 snow days is 55.17%. Okay. B. We have to have more than 16 snow days. So more than 16 snow days is the probability that x is more than 16. And that is going to correct to, so that's discrete, so that's going to correct to x is bigger than 16.5. We're going to find the z-score. So the z-score is going to be equal to x minus the mean over the standard deviation, which is going to be 3.5 on 4, which is 0.88. So this now becomes the probability that z is bigger than 0.88. And to find the probability that something is bigger, it's going to be 1 minus the probability that z is less than 0.88. So we're going to have to look up 0.88 on our chart. So 0.88 is 8106. Which is going to be 0.1894. And so the answer is going to be 18.94%. So the probability of having more than 16 snow days is 18.94%. At least 16 snow days. Is that the same thing as B? And it's not. So the difference between more than 16 snow days or at least 16 snow days is that over here, 16 actually is acceptable. So what C is saying, okay, I want the probability that x is bigger than or equal to 16. And what that does is it changes it, because now the probability is going to be bigger than 15.5 and not 16.5, which will change the z-score. So the z-score is going to be 15.5 minus 13 over 4, which is 2.5 over 4, which is 0.63. So this is going to be equal to the probability that z is bigger than 0.63, which is going to be 1 minus the probability that z is less than 0.63, which is 7357. Which is 1 minus 0.7357. Which is going to be 26.43%, which is quite a bit different, right? So the probability before was, so there was an 18.94% of having more than 16 days, but 26% probability of having at least 16 snow days. Okay. And last but not least, exactly 13 snow days. So I want the probability that x is exactly 13. And that definitely needs correction. And that's going to correct to 12.5 is less than x, which is less than 13.5. And so we've actually got a bunch of work to do. Now I think I have some of that, don't I? Yes, so the z-scores. So z is 13.4, so for 13.5 minus 13 over 4, and looking at what I got before, I got 0.13. And then the other one is going to be 12.5 minus 13 over 4. And that is going to be equal to, that's going to be negative 0.5, that's going to be negative 0.13. So that's going to become the probability that negative 0.13 is less than z, which is less than 0.13. And the way we do in-betweeners again is we do the probability that it's less than the top one minus the probability that it's less than the bottom one. And the probability that it's less than 0.13 is going to be 0.5517. Okay, I'm just going off of A there. And the probability it's less than the bottom one is going to be 4483. Actually, I should have done that. 4483, which is going to be going to be 10.34%. So the probability of having exactly 13 snow days is going to be 10.34%. That's quite the question. One little quick add-on. Let's say we have this one over here. The mean height of lemurs is 72 centimeters with a standard deviation of 11. What's the probability that a randomly selected lemur is exactly 72 centimeters tall? So we might say, okay, so the probability that x equals 71, and then what does that correct into? And the answer is that it doesn't correct at all, because this is height, which is a continuous variable. So the probability that's exactly 71 centimeters tall is 0. And then how does this one correct? This one also does not correct at all because, once again, it is continuous. So those are the values that you would use. You only correct when it's discrete.